Welcome to What the Fit, a podcast about what it means to be fit, whatever the fuck that means. Today, we have a very special guest. I'm so excited to talk to you. Welcome, Drew Lee, Dollars with Drew, a.k.a.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh.
I want to give a quick shout out to my wife.
Yes.
She's a big fan of your podcast.
Yes.
And so I'm super excited to be on here and chat with you.
I'm really excited too. I was really excited when she reached out to me and she was like, I think that you should have my husband on. And I was like, oh, hell yeah. We have a lot of stuff to talk about. I think a lot of value for people and just my selfish reasons. I'm so excited to talk about your story and what you're doing now. I think we have a lot of similarities and just be a good conversation. So you are a personal finance expert. At 35, you have a net worth of $185,000. 850.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, like that's not $850,000 net worth at 35. That's insane. That's incredible. I think like to hear that, people will, automatically think like, oh my God, like maybe think of their own financial situation and be like, how in the world? And I think that like your content and your tools, it does such a good job of like easily breaking that down for people. So I absolutely want them to like go follow you, check that out, like get into all the content. But I'm really interested in like what it took for you to like adapt to this kind of lifestyle and like what got you into it in the first place. So let's just like start there. Mm-hmm. What's your story? Are you from Cincinnati? So
I'm from Pittsburgh originally, but
okay.
I moved out here for work in about 2014.
Okay.
So 12 years ago. So Cincinnati definitely feels like home.
Yeah.
At this point, and I love it.
Yeah.
And my wife is from the area, so we're definitely staying.
Yeah.
But yeah, it feels like home, and I love it.
Good. And then so when you got here and you said 2014, mm-hmm. you were working an engineering job, I'm assuming?
Yeah. So I worked for Siemens. They have a factory in Norwood. It's actually right by the Factory 52 area.
Yeah.
That whole new development. So I worked there for about 3 or 4 years.
Okay.
And then I took a consulting job after that.
Okay.
And worked there for a few more years. And then I quit engineering, and that was in 2020.
Okay, so 2020, quit, like left corporate, left engineering.
Yeah.
What made you make that change?
So one of the things, in addition to personal finance, one of the other big topics I make content about is financial independence.
Yes.
And so there's a term FIRE, F-I-R-E. Have you heard of that term before? So it stands for financial independence, retire early. And
Love that.
Yeah, right? Like,
sounds great.
I know, right? But it's a term for the mindset. It's people that are aggressively saving and investing and starting, early. And the goal is to retire earlier than 65, the traditional retirement age. And that could be 60, it could be 55, could be 50, 40.
Okay.
Some people that are, very high earners and they very deliberately live well below their means.
Yep.
They can retire in their 30s, if you can invest a lot of money per year, for example.
This blows my mind. Yeah.
But it's such an amazing, I think, concept that I really think most people should apply and take some principles from it, right? Not everybody is going to retire when they're 40 or even wants to retire when they're 40. Mm-hmm. But if I told you, what if you could retire at 55 instead of 65, even 60 instead of 65? That sounds pretty good, right?
Sounds incredible. And I think a lot of people, especially right now, like it's difficult to even think about retirement, period. Mm-hmm. Right. And that's why I think this is so interesting because I had like a couple years, I went to Miami. I graduated from Miami. Okay. And I came to Cincinnati in 2012.
Okay.
So, similar time. Yeah. Graduated, worked a corporate job in like operations, talent acquisition, HR for 14 years. And, so amongst my friends, a lot of them were like finance majors coming out of Miami Business School. And I had a few people talking about this concept, right? I don't know if they used the term FIRE, but it was like, yeah, we're like saving because we want to retire early. And to me, I was like, oh, that's amazing. Good for you. Could never be me.
Yeah.
Could never be me. Right. And that's why I like love your content so much because it really just kind of like breaks down how you did it. And I love it. And it's not in a way of like, oh yeah, look at how much money I have. It's like, no, having money is the freedom to pursue whatever you want to do. Right? Like,
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I try to make it very transparent, and it does feel weird to tell my net worth online, but I try to make it very transparent and show people, right? I think that's the biggest thing, and why I think my content has resonated well with, especially with like people in their 20s, is because I did it for the last 10 years, right? And this is exactly what I did, and this is how much I have now. And you know, it's not because, you know, that's exactly what I did, and I like to share that.
Yeah, I love it. So like, so you came across this idea, right, somewhere along the way of like financial independence, retiring early, and then what did you do? You just committed to that? You just said, here's my plan, I'm doing it?
Yeah. So when I graduated college when I was 23 in 2013, I studied industrial engineering.
Okay.
And so I graduate, right? I'm making money.
Yeah.
And I think the engineer mindset in me was like, okay, I am making money now. What do I do with it, right? What is the most optimal way to like, what is the most optimal way to handle my money? And so I did some research, and
did I see you read like every like subreddit?
Yeah. So my favorite free resources, these are free. I will it's a book, but you can get it at your library for free, or $10 on Amazon, whatever.
Yeah.
It's called I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi.
Okay.
And so that book, if I could stand on a mountain and the entire world or country could hear what I'm saying, I would tell people to read that book.
Okay, you read it at 23.
Yeah. And it just teaches, it's nothing fancy or crazy, but it teaches you, right, the basics that I think every person needs to know about personal finance.
And we don't taught it. You know,
for
like
sure.
All of a sudden, you're 22, 23, 24 coming out of school, and finally, you're making some money. I'll tell you what I did. I spent it. That's what I did with my money when I used to, you know, like for real. Yeah. And now I'm like, you know, way further down, and I'm like, wow, wish I would have maybe like let the impulse go a little bit in my younger years and like stay focused. But
that's the hard part. Nobody's telling you that when you're 23, right?
Exactly.
And that's why I'm so passionate about this stuff, because I want to be that voice to tell others, right, the power of starting early and the power of money, and not just to buy stuff, right, but to buy back your time and control over your time and the whole financial independence stuff.
Yeah.
But so that book was one resource. The other resource which you were starting to mention was the Reddit, or the personal finance subreddit on Reddit. And that's a really good free resource. And the reason I like that is, the other difficult thing about personal finance information is it's hard to know who to trust, right? There's so much stuff out there. People want you to pay money for this information, that information, right? But the thing I like about Reddit is I don't know the right term. It's like it's like
crowdsourcing.
Yeah. So it's like, it's not just me telling you this is what you should do. It's the collective group of these Redditors in the personal finance subreddit all agreeing that this is the best and most optimal way to handle your money. And that's what I really like about Reddit.
Yeah.
And it's free, right? And so those are my two favorite resources.
Right.
And I read those. I feel very lucky that I happened to stumble upon those when I was 23, and you know, they changed the rest of my life.
Did anyone like recommend that book to you, or like where did that kind of like internal fire come to be like, because this is a big undertaking, right? It takes discipline, it takes sacrifice, it takes like foregoing what you want in the moment for something that you want later on. I think that's can be really difficult for people. So like, where did that like flame come from for you?
So part of it is kudos to my parents.
Yeah.
My parents just raised me frugally, right?
Yes.
And
I love that. That is honestly one of the best things a parent can do for a child.
Honestly.
It is.
And full transparency, my parents also paid for my college, and so I graduated debt-free, and obviously that's a huge, you know, starting point. But I was just having this conversation with my parents. I was just in Pittsburgh, you know, last weekend.
Yeah.
I told them like, it's, you know, obviously it helps so much to graduate debt-free, but there's also kids that graduate debt-free and then they spend all their money on you know, a new car, fancy apartment, and, you know, they don't have anything to show for it in 10 years. So really the bigger thing, and I was thanking them, the bigger thing I really think was that they raised me frugally, and I think I just had some of those habits and of how to think about money and caring about my money and not wanting to spend it all, I guess.
Yeah.
But so I got to give kudos to my parents that,
definitely,
you know, how they raised me definitely instilled some of those habits and how I think about money.
Yeah. So once you like you've consumed these resources, right? You have this knowledge. What was kind of like the first step where you were like, okay, here we go. I'm setting on this path.
Yeah.
I'm committed to this.
So I think the other big thing was I'm an engineer, or ex-engineer now, I guess.
Yeah.
But
it's hard to separate yourself, right, from that identity.
I'm finally starting to, now that I feel confident in my career now as a content creator. So I'm finally starting to. But for a while, I didn't know what I was.
Right.
But so I was saying, I'm a math person, and I think the thing that helped me was if you look at the numbers and the compounding and like just, this isn't opinion. These are facts, right?
Yes.
If you start when you're early, the math and the compounding and how much it grows, it's truly astonishing when you truly understand the numbers and how much that curve, it takes patience, right?
Yeah.
But how much that curve will really start to go up, in 10, 15 years. So I think understanding that math really helped, and it's patient. It's hard to have the patience, right, to invest when you're 23 years old.
Yes.
It's very hard.
And I'm sure you see, peers and friends and people around you. Oh, I'm going to go on this Euro vacation, and I'm going to, go to these bachelor and bachelorette parties on the weekends, and I'm going to go to the $100 brunch, whatever it is, like to see them and be like, because I think you had mentioned in one of your videos, right? Like you kind of set it down, right? You like maxed out your 401k, right? And
my Roth IRA.
Your Roth IRA. And did you do an HSA too, did I see?
Yeah, I did have an HSA, depending on where I was working and whether they offered it.
But like you were kind of thinking like, all right, I'm going to put as much money as I am allowed to into these accounts. And then you kind of came out with, all right, here's what I have left, and I have to live on this.
Yeah. Okay, good. So you've been watching my content. I love that.
I have been watching your content. I have been watching your content because this to me, and maybe we can talk about this too, it feels like there's such a block for me when it comes to like money. Because I think people have a lot of like emotion and like, you were saying that you were really grateful for your parents of like giving you this frugal life. And I grew up with a single mom who was a waitress, essentially supporting 4 kids. So we had like no money. So when I went to college and I was finally making money, I was like, oh, well, I'm going to spend it. I never got to spend it before, and it's like, there's no, whatever, everyone, comes from different backgrounds, but there is like a lot more than just the number sometimes in people's mind. So I see this and I'm like amazed.
Yeah.
Right.
And so that actually came up when I was talking with my parents recently.
Yeah.
And I have a friend or two that has a similar story to what you just mentioned. Yeah. And like, I get it, right? I wasn't in those shoes, but I totally get it. And that's why there's another really good book. It's called The Psychology of Money, I believe, by, I can't remember the author, but it's easily Googleable. But that book talks about some of those different things and just, money is a lot of psychology too, and just how you're raised, and and it's a lot of it is in the head, and so
a lot of stuff to break down.
Definitely totally feel that, and it's tough.
Yeah. So you had this like amount of money, and was this like in the like your first like couple years out of like into the corporate world that you were doing?
So pretty early on, within the first couple months of me starting my corporate engineering career. Yes. And again, very fortunate, but like you mentioned, I just said to myself, you know what, I'm going to max out my 401k and my Roth IRA. I think until 26, I was on my parents' health plan. That's the cutoff date. But so I didn't have an HSA at 23, but I decided to just max those out, and I was going to do whatever I needed to do to live off the remaining. And a lot of people, it's the other way around, right? Where they're finding their apartment, getting their car, right? Et cetera, and that's, I only have $100 left over a month to invest, or zero, or whatever, right? So a lot of people do it the other way. But I think the way, if you want to be intentional about this stuff, I think you have to prioritize it and set that, how much you want to invest first, and then, re-engineer it the other way almost.
Yep. So as you're going along, What to you were like some of these like big standout moments where you were like, all right, this was the good move. This really like got me going, or, you know, just kind of like quick thing. Because like I said, you have so much content and I'm sure there's like a lot to learn in this, and I want people to like spend the time doing that. But just like really, you know, what were some standout things for you that made a difference?
I think the biggest thing is automation, right? So you can like automate your 401k, you know, if you work a W-2 corporate job, your company should have a 401k almost certainly. You can like automate the contributions.
Yep, just comes out of your pay before you even see it.
Yeah. And same thing with the Roth IRA. You can automate the money to transfer from your bank account to your Roth IRA monthly. You don't even see it. So that was a big thing. And again, I started that when I was 23. And a lot of people think I obsessed over money in my 20s, and that's actually very far from the truth. I didn't even really look at my investments or net. Yeah, I didn't think about it until I was in that later consulting job, and I was probably 27. I was like, I'm really not enjoying this anymore. And I looked at my numbers, and I was like, oh, that's a pretty good chunk of change. Like maybe this is kind of realistic to quit or take some time off.
Okay, let's talk. Yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
So you were 27, you said, when?
So that's when 27, 28, when I started really thinking about not doing corporate for another 30 years.
Yeah.
But I was 29 when I
finally
quit for the first time.
What was that experience like for you? So you were just you were over it. You were like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
What didn't you like about it?
So at that time I was working a consulting job. I was traveling a lot, not eating well, you know, eating out all the time on the road, working long hours, nothing too crazy, but definitely long hours. I was stressed all the time. And honestly, I missed my friends in Cincinnati. I would play soccer twice a week, see my friends all the time throughout the week. And I missed that because I was traveling all the time. Yeah. So, and at the time, my girlfriend, now wife, we were sharing a 1-bedroom. It was in Fort Thomas. Our rent was, with everything all in, utilities, about $1,000 a month. And so divided by 2 is $500 a month per person, you know, very cheap.
Really cheap now compared to.
Especially, that was before, you know, all the inflation during 2020. So super low rent. My car was paid off. You know, I shop at Aldi. I like shopping at Aldi and cooking at home. And you know, like I said, I was eating out all the time. I wanted to cook at home. Yeah. So I had super low expenses. I was probably living off 25, 30 grand a year. Yeah. And so I knew I had low expenses, and at my engineering job, all I could think about was quitting. I wanted to get a job at Amazon, for example, and just move boxes for $15 an hour.
Just turn the brain off.
Yeah, exactly. Clock out, turn off, and then I could focus on my passion project, which was personal finance and investing content.
Okay. When did you start creating content around personal finance?
So it wasn't until 2022. I got the cold feet thing where it's hard to just start sometimes, right? I had that, and it was a weird time in 2020. Yep. But so it wasn't until 2 years later.
But you had it in your mind, you're like, I want other people to know about this.
Yes. I was extremely passionate about kind of what we talked about earlier, the education, and how there's a lot, I wanted to be that voice for 20 something year olds. I was extremely passionate about that. Yeah. And I would talk to my coworkers, my younger coworkers, and I'd be in their ear all the time about that stuff. So I knew that's what I wanted to do. But it's funny. I always say I'm the first. I quit my corporate engineering job to be a content creator, and with 0 followers. I didn't even make the accounts. I just quit because I knew I wanted to do that. Wow. And I had the low expenses, and I knew as long as I could get a job for $15 an hour, that would at least cover my bills.
You would cover your bills. Yeah, you'd have your bills paid for.
Yeah. And so real quick, so that's a variation of FIRE. It's called Coast FIRE. And so that's where you have a nest egg. Yes. And again, I'm very transparent about my numbers in my content. I was 29. I had a nest egg of about $300,000 at that time. And so I knew that as long I knew I could stop investing. Okay. And as long as I didn't touch my nest egg, right? And I just let that nest egg grow and compound for another 30, 35 years, it would grow into enough money to retire at the traditional retirement age of 60 or 65 without ever investing a single dollar.
Any more in.
And so that's why they call it Coast FI. You can just kind of coast as long as you can pay your bills. And my bills are 30 grand a year. I just
Right.
had to make 30 grand a year, and I could do whatever the heck I wanted to in life. And that
Right.
was my goal. And
Okay.
that's what I did.
Yeah.
when I quit.
Were you thinking because then your intention was you want to create content and you want to like eventually make money off of that content, right? Like that was like the next kind of career step.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I wasn't thinking that far ahead because
Okay.
this is before I had kids and I could keep my
That's-
expenses super low.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
My honestly, my head was, I might just work at these hourly jobs, and as long as I keep my expenses low and pay my bills, I can make content and not even monetize it.
Right.
And if yeah. So
Yeah. And then obviously life goes on and you
Yes.
get more expenses and things
Yes,
change
exactly,
and
yeah.
all of that. That's incredible.
yeah,
That
it
is
was.
literally before you're 30 years old to be like, I actually don't have to put any more money in here. I just can't touch it. And I got to have my bills paid and I can still retire at
Yep.
55, 60.
And I can do whatever I want
And
as
I
long
can
as
do
I'm making, paying my bills.
Whatever I want.
It was
Yeah.
it's amazing. Yeah.
It's
And-
like, it's truly amazing.
Yeah.
That's what I just love too. When you said about like, having this money, it's not about the cars and the boats and the fancy things, whatever. It's literally freedom,
exactly. Yeah.
which is arguably the most valuable thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
I fully agree.
Yeah.
I fully agree.
So, so you quit your job and you said you needed to find, basically a job that was like,
Yeah.
30, 35,000. What was the first job that you took?
So I quit, I think it was February 20th or like February 22nd of 2020.
Okay.
And I had this whole vision,
my gosh, right
yeah,
before COVID.
exactly. I'm going to hang out with my friends all the time. I'm going to play soccer a couple of times a week. I had this whole vision of this amazing
I'm going
thing.
to have
And
such
then
a social life I didn't get
Yes.
to have. Yeah.
3 weeks later, March
world
of
is shut
2020, we know what happened then. And then I was like, I did have my eyes set on getting a job at Amazon, but then that happened, COVID happens. I'm like, the last place I want to be is in a warehouse with 100 other people, right?
sure.
So I didn't work. And anyways, I took some time off there. My first job, hourly job, was at Panda Express, and that was I have my timeline
Yeah,
here. 'Cause
yeah,
my
yeah.
timeline is so crazy.
I know.
have to.
And you've had a lot of different jobs by now, right?
But that first job was June 2020. I got a job at Panda Express, which is one of my favorite, fast food, fast casual places to eat. So I
Yeah.
was like,
What? Yeah, I was gonna say,
why
what
don't
made
I
you-
just try getting a job there? I like the food, so why don't I just try it?
All right.
And yeah, so I got a job there, and that was what kind of kicked off that part of my life where I would try kind of these different hourly jobs. And this is all before content. I didn't have one single follower. I just literally got the job at Panda Express because that was my plan.
Yeah.
To make 30 grand a year and pay my bills. So
Right.
this is before anything, even content, had started. Yeah.
Okay. Because you said the content started in 2022.
Yep.
So you
Yeah.
had a couple years of doing these different sort of jobs before you were sharing about them.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, at least for me, this is kind of where our stories are similar. When I, got laid off and I was like, I want to pursue my dream and what I love, which is podcasting and storytelling. I need to pay my bills though, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like I got into the service industry and been bartending for the last year. And one of the things that kind of makes it worthwhile or allows me to keep going with a positive attitude is that I can share about it and
Yeah.
talk about it,
Right.
because it's, some of the stories are wild and the structure is very different and leadership is very different and
Oh, yeah.
expectation is very
Yes.
different, all of
Yes.
that. And it was comforting to be like, all right, well, at least I can share my journey. So you had a couple years where you're just in it.
Yeah.
You're just telling your
Yeah.
wife and your friends probably, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
How was your job at Panda Express? How was that first one?
It was good. So I had worked at, I don't know if you remember Boston Market.
Of course.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. I think we're
Yeah.
in the same
Yeah,
age
yeah, yeah.
range, but younger people in us probably may not remember Boston Market.
Yeah.
But so I worked there in high school. So
Okay.
I did, it wasn't my first time
Yeah,
ever
yeah,
in a place. But that was just part-time. At Panda Express, I was working full-time, and it was a grind,
Yeah. Your body, it's
yeah,
much
body-
different than
Yep.
sitting at a desk all day or even standing at a desk all day versus
Yep.
running around a restaurant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would be, stir frying or cooking these giant woks of chow mein and fried rice, and my forearms, I compare it to like rock climbing. If you ever been to a rock climbing gym, your forearms are fried after you leave. My forearms were fried after I would leave work.
When I first started bartending, I had tennis elbow so bad from the twisty motion of pouring.
Yeah.
For the first 3 months, I could barely like extend my arm out. I had to get like a little brace.
Wow. That's intense.
I know. But it's like you don't even realize, you know, these things because we're used to doing one sort of job, and then you're thrown into a new one. It's like, oh my God, the physicality alone, not to mention the mental and the social and all that. So crazy.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
So what made you decide to kind of like take the leap with creating content?
So, as we go further into my story, I guess I got to take on my
timeline now. Get the timeline out.
So Panda Express was June of 2020. I ended up getting a job at Amazon. Also, actually, you know, moving boxes like I had originally planned. I also worked at this car part assembly plant. And just real quick, that was the most boring job I have ever had. You would literally take a screw, put it into this part. You would hit a button. This machine would come down and like clamp the piece together, and then it would come back up. You would take the part. It was really this for 8 hours a day. But you know, people make it was, you know, you could get a lot of overtime, and people made
you could make money.
Yeah, people, you know, that was their career, and you know, it definitely paid a lot of people's bills. Yeah, but it was it was very boring and not for me.
Really quick, I have to just ask, when you going to get these jobs, like, are you giving them a resume and they like see all your experience and they're like,
so every job has a different story. The one thing I will say is I love like hiring events and hiring fairs, because then they know, or then you know they need people, and they're not always diving into your resume. A lot of times at these hiring events or hiring fairs, they're just trying to get people onboarded because they know half the people are going to drop in amount of time. So it's definitely a lot easier to get hired at places whenever there's hiring events and things like that. So whenever I see those, I love those, because I know the engineering career, some people see it as a good thing. Some people see it as maybe a bad thing.
Right, because you're going to leave. You're going to get bored and you're going to leave. Yeah.
So, but as long as I can get my foot in the door, people, they're going to see I'm a good employee and things like that. But it just varies so much from job to job.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, I'm sorry. I'd asked you how you finally got into creating the content.
Yeah. So I was back at an engineering job starting in I was back at an engineering job starting in June of 2021. Our first daughter was born in April of 2021. And then I got an offer for this engineering job, and I was like, you know, I should probably take it. I got a kid, and my bills were higher than 30 grand as a pre-kid person. So I was like, I should probably take that engineering job. Yeah. So I took it. And then summer of 2022, my wife was like, you know, so my wife was like, Drew, you've been talking about content for 2 years now. Like, just make a damn video.
Yeah.
So I
just make a damn video.
Start. Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
Just start. Yeah. And that's a big part of me now. That's a huge kind of motto, is just start, try it, fail quickly. Yeah. Hopefully you don't fail, but fail quickly at least and learn from it, right?
Yep.
So I go to my car. I make my first video on TikTok, summer of 22. And
do you remember what the first video was about?
Yeah, it was just explaining my story. I was just telling people at that time I had a net worth of, 32. I had a net worth of $500,000. And I was just telling my story, what we talked about earlier in the podcast. This is what I did to get to a net worth of $500,000 at 32. Yeah. Like, this is literally exactly what I did. So it was about that. Yeah. But it was just me hitting the, record button in my car. That was it. No mic or any, just nothing. That was it. And then, I kept on making videos, and 6 months later I had 20,000 followers on TikTok.
In 6 months.
Yeah.
And all you did was just continue to make videos. You didn't do any kind of strategy with an algorithm or.
I did try to. Yeah. There's all these little things,
little tips. Yeah.
So I was always trying to tinker and I do like trying. Well, back then I loved trying different styles of content and just seeing what worked, what people liked. So I am a tinkerer, and I think that's the analyticalness of being an engineer in me.
Yeah.
But 6 months later, I had 20,000 followers.
Wow.
And then just to keep on going with the story, again, I'm at an engineering job while I'm doing this. My wife will tell you, I would stay up till like 2 or 3 in the morning sometimes doing, because I had a kid, right?
Yeah.
So I'd come home from work, family time, and I'd stay up
Sure.
till 3 in the morning making videos and then go to work the next day at 8. But I loved it, right? It was my passion. I absolutely loved putting that grind in.
Yeah.
But yeah, so January of 2023, I had 20,000 followers on TikTok, and I was like, man, I'm working this full-time engineering job. What if I spend 40 to 50 hours a week what if I put 40 to 50 hours a week into my content instead of putting 50 hours a week into this engineering job?
Yep.
And I had quit already one time.
Yeah.
And so I knew how to quit.
Yeah.
I just knew the logistics, right? And how everything was going to work. And I felt comfortable doing it. So I was like, and my wife is a stay-at-home mom and has been through all of this. So it's even crazier, right?
Yes,
it's not like I had her
crazier.
income or her, stability to lean back on.
That security, yeah.
But the whole thing in all of this is just the power of time, right? I value my time and being able to pursue this opportunity and pursue my passion while I'm young and not waiting till I'm 50 or 60 years old to pursue my passion. I just value that. And that's why you're doing the same thing, right? I value that. Being able to pursue and do whatever I want with my time so much. And I didn't want to have any regrets when I'm older about what if I quit that engineering job and put 50 hours a week into this.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what fueled it. But so I quit that job and put all my time in the content. And so financially it was, I had a good net worth, but on a day-to-day cash flow perspective, it was very challenging.
Yeah.
So that was January 2023 when I quit that engineering job. I gave it 9 months. And after 9 months of doing content full time, I had grown to 100,000 followers on TikTok, which was really amazing.
Yeah.
However, I still wasn't monetizing anywhere close to well enough to cover all of our bills as a family.
You're just getting like some.
Yeah. Some, but it wasn't
like
anywhere.
Ad stuff, brand deals, ad stuff.
Back then it was, brand deals. Yeah.
Okay.
But I was probably making 30 probably from content, probably the equivalent of from like brand deals from content, probably the equivalent of maybe $30,000 or $35,000 a year.
Okay.
And again, I'm transparent about all this stuff. At my last engineering job, I was making exactly 100,000 per year. But so it wasn't anywhere close to cover our bills as a family, right?
Right.
So that was September of 2023. I start applying to engineering jobs again. I'm like, I got to stop the bleeding. I got to go back to engineering. It's just, not working out. Right.
Yep.
So I go back to engineering job. I last there for 6 months and I'm like, I just can't do this. Right. So I quit again.
I know. Yeah.
In April of 2024, I quit that engineering job. That was the third time I quit an engineering job to again pursue content full time. And at that time, I did get a job at Frontier Airlines because they had a hiring event. I was like, that sounds really cool. So I got a job there. They're paying $20 an hour, and I was working full-time hours. So that's an equivalent salary of, about 40 grand a year. So that helped to have the consistent income while I was still trying to do content.
On top of some of your brand. Yeah.
I was at Frontier for 4 months. I loved that job. They ended up cutting hours, and I was commuting to the airport at 4 a.m. for a 4-hour shift, and just wasn't worth it. But it was a great job. I loved.
What did you love about it?
So I worked at the gate, and it was kind of like a game almost, right?
Okay.
So you have this flight. The worst ones were oversold flights to Orlando in the summer, right? You have all these kids in strollers, and so how airlines oversell tickets sometimes.
Yep.
But I love the engineer in me loves the process side of things. So you have to do the loading and the boarding process perfectly in order to get this flight loaded on time, and then you have to do the process where you offer money to people so they'll
either
take a later
back.
flight.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't always do that, right? But I would follow everything by the book, right? Because it's all laid out exactly what you do, how much money you have to offer at the right intervals.
Right.
But I just loved like perfecting that process
Yes.
and getting good at it. It was
Yeah.
like a game, and I
Yeah.
really enjoyed it. And I just love flying and being at the airport. It's fun to
Yeah, it's good energy.
just be at there. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And the people watching, it
Yeah.
was great. But not an easy job, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was there for 4 months, and then
I've seen you work at McDonald's.
Yeah.
I've seen you work at Shake Shack.
yeah. So that was later.
Yeah.
Okay, so I quit Frontier. This is in, I know this is all over the place, but this is in like April of 2024. So now I'm just going back to full-time content creation, no Frontier. And I did that for about 8 more months or so. And I had grown, I was up to maybe 130,000 followers on TikTok. So I grew a little bit, but again, it still wasn't working out. So summer of 2025, I started applying to engineering jobs again, right? It just wasn't working out.
Yeah.
But again, it was a great feeling because at least I would.
You're like, I know, I tried this.
Yeah, exactly.
I
So I
gave
went
it
out,
my all.
Yep.
Yeah.
Went out swinging. Yeah. So but I started applying for engineering jobs again. And that's when I had the idea like, hey, I've worked these hourly jobs. And again, I didn't make content about Frontier.
Right.
I made one video after I had quit, but I
Right.
wasn't making content while I was working there.
Yeah.
But I've worked all these jobs. What if I get a job at McDonald's, right? One of the biggest brands in the
Yes.
world.
Yes.
And make content about me working there because
Yes.
I've already worked these jobs because it fit my lifestyle even before content.
Yep.
And so I was like, F it.
Yeah.
Let me apply to McDonald's.
Yeah.
Got the job, started making content about it as a literal last resort before going back to engineering again. And it blew up.
It blew
in
up.
2 months. My follower count, I think I got 100,000 more followers on TikTok. I'm up to like 230, 240 now. On Instagram, I think I was at maybe 25,000 followers before McDonald's. Now, after McDonald's, I was up to 60. Now I'm up to almost 90 on Instagram.
Hell yeah.
And I think it got like all my videos got 15 million views in a span of 2 months.
Holy
I think
shit,
I was
bro.
averaging like 300,000 views a video. It was crazy.
I need to
It
talk
was-
to you about this part of
Yeah,
it
yeah,
on the side.
yeah. I mean, I eat, sleep, and breathe content now
Yeah,
too. But
yeah.
it blew up, but that was one of the. But I had that idea for months about making content around these jobs. I just
didn't
was
do
sitting on my hands.
I
I didn't do
know.
it,
I
and then
know.
it wasn't until the last resort where I just tried it, and that's why I'm all about try it, see if it works. If it fails, at least you learn and it didn't work, and you can move on and live with no regrets,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and monetize your experience
yep.
because that's about the smartest thing
Yeah,
you can do.
that too. Yeah,
the
that
smartest
too.
thing you can do. Oh my gosh, that's like truly incredible. And now you're a full-time content creator, and you will pick up jobs kind of like as you
Yeah.
want
so
to, kind of. Yeah.
McDonald's, I quit because there was a manager that I just we didn't vibe
Yeah.
well, and I it wasn't enjoyable towards the end.
Right.
But also I don't like saying this but sometimes I quit because my job is content. If the content is not performing, then maybe I need to try something else.
Hell yeah.
And so that's why the only negative in what I do, and I address this in my videos, is that it is kind of a pain for the manager if somebody quits. But also, the turnover, unfortunately, is
just
high
high.
in these $15 per hour jobs. So,
Yeah.
but I do feel bad.
Do you give them like a notice?
Yeah, I definitely give at least 2 weeks.
Yeah.
At Shake Shack, I gave like 3 weeks notice.
Yeah.
And I always work part-time, so it's not like I'm a key cog working 40 hours a week and they got to replace 40 hours a week. So it's not, and people are used to it, but I do feel bad. That's the only negative.
Yeah. I'm
in
glad
all
you
of
addressed
this.
that because that's aware of you and mindful of you
Yes,
on the other side of like, oh, I'm causing someone more work after leaving. But also I'm sure you're like the best employee that they have.
Yeah, I try to be very, very good. And I generally am a very top performer.
Yeah. I know. I want to spend a little bit of time because this is the transition to working in like a very structured, professional, corporate environment. I think that, people choose to go down that career path because it is predictable, right? You've got the same schedule every week, right? And once you're kind of into the job, you know what to expect. And, there's this level of like routine and, I'm sure in every workplace, right, there are rude people, there are people that aren't considerate, whatever. But more so in corporate, you're kind of like, you almost have to mask it a little bit the passive aggression will be maybe
Yeah.
higher on that side, or right, or like the backhanded misogyny or whatever, you know, it's not so in your face. But when you're out in the real world dealing with actual humans who want food, who want drink, who want to get on a flight, like that polish and the veneer is kind of gone, right? Would you agree?
Yeah. You never know what you're going to run into with customers, especially with Frontier. Frontier is got to be one of the hardest customer service jobs. When you see the videos
because
about
people are pissed
Yeah,
off.
yeah.
I have yelled at a Frontier person before.
Yeah. So that's why it's funny when I go to these jobs and I tell them I worked at Frontier.
They're like,
that's
you can do anything.
Yeah, honestly, you can do anything customer service related once you've worked there. So I do have a very strong resume for customer service now because I have that on my belt. But I mean, you're right. I mean, and you know, and that's why we were bonding a little before we started recording about, you know, you faced a lot of that too.
Yeah.
You know, in your role. And
I think to me, I'll be interested to hear what you think. I think to me, one of like the biggest shifts was like that, like there really is no implied or given respect with someone on the other end, right? And it's like I've had the experience of like people like will literally at the bar will tell me I'm dumb, or like will just like treat me like I am less than them because of like the work I'm doing. And of course it's like I'm aware of myself enough and confident in myself enough to know like I know what I'm capable of, and I'm not gonna like, I'm probably smarter than you, sir, but like we don't need to do that, right? You know, but like that was like one of the biggest things for me coming in, was just like, oh, people now think differently of me. And then it caused me then to, when I'm interacting with people, to like shift my perspective too, of like, no, these are just like little humans out here trying to work and like do a good job at what they're doing, just like I was trying to do a good job at what I was doing in whatever role. Have you had that experience?
I think it also just shows like you can't judge someone, right? You don't know, you know, even even though they may be working this job, you don't know. Maybe they have close to $1 million
or a million followers,
or whatever, right? But you just never know, right?
I also loved, I had seen a video of you talking about, I can't remember what place it was, but you were sad to be leaving because you had a work best friend.
Yes.
And that just made all the difference in the work environment. And I think that was one thing I really picked up on a lot too, you know, working the service industry, is like, it can be grueling, it can be physically taxing and like emotionally so and all that. But if you have a friend with you, you can do anything. Yeah,
for sure. And so Shake Shack, so that was Shake Shack that you're talking about. And that was we even had a closer bond because, so I mean, this is Cincinnati, Cincinnati podcast. I was at the Shake Shack in Kenwood.
Okay.
And that was another job where it was like a hiring event because they were opening the new restaurant. So all of the workers there, we were like...
founding members.
Yeah. And so like we had a few of us had a very tight bond because we were day ones, right? And we had gone through the training. We had opened the store together. We had all evolved and got so much better at our jobs. And so that was even a much closer connection. So Shake Shack was tough for I still miss it sometimes. And I got to go visit them. But that one was especially... we were especially tight in what was tough to leave.
No, I loved that. I love that aspect of this work that I do. Like when you have to work with someone, and like for me, it will be like there'll be just two of us.
Okay,
for the whole
so you're really
right. So like we've got we've got to serve people, we've got to keep it clean, we've got to keep it safe, and we got to shut it all down. So it's like there's so many tasks. Talk about like process stuff. That's so fun for me too, because I come from like a process optimization background.
Nice.
And so I'm like, I will like have it down now. Like I know exactly when I need to start tearing down things. I know the order that needs to happen, like where in the bar I'm walking, so I'm not like backtracking my steps.
You're an industrial engineer.
Like I love it. It's really fun. And it's like a game. It's like, can I do it?
Yeah.
Can I get it all down? Did I make a perfect little loop? You know?
Yeah.
Like
that's one of my favorite parts about all these jobs is just. It's figuring it out and it's like, and if we know this is the process that works and everyone does it, we can deliver a consistent result every single time. Yep. You're speaking my language. I love standardization process. I love it.
I mean, because it's like, you can control the outcome.
Yeah.
And there are not many situations in life where you fully can. And like, process is one. I think
Right.
that's why I like it too so much. 'Cause I'm a
Yeah.
little bit of a control freak, but yeah, that's what job are you working now?
So right now I'm at a
The hotel.
yeah, I'm at a hotel. It's a Home 2 Suites by Hilton hotel, and I'm working the front desk. And I've only worked 4 or 5 shifts now, so I'm still getting into things. But it's
boring.
Yeah. Well, so it is getting busier.
Okay.
I did make a video about how my
good.
first shift was slow and boring, but it is getting
yeah.
a little busier. But
I've done a similar job, like in college.
Okay.
I did kind of like basically like a hotel,
Oh, nice.
whatever.
Okay.
And luckily for me at the time, I was studying for the GRE, so I could like have things to do.
Okay.
But I remember it being just so boring.
What were you like? Evenings or like mornings or?
I would do like some day shifts, but then they had
Okay.
an overnight shift.
Oh,
They would
okay.
you
Okay,
get paid more money,
That's really boring then, right?
but you could
Or-
have your laptop.
Nice.
So
Okay.
it was like
Yeah,
you kind
so-
of had you couldn't have your laptop during the day,
Right.
but you could have it at night. So I was like, give
So
me the
that-
night shift. Like I'll watch TV.
Yeah,
and
as long as
sit
you
there,
can-
just stay awake, basically.
Yeah. As
Yeah.
long as you have that though, that's not
I
too
know.
bad of a
That's
gig
good.
benefit,
Well, now we
right?
have our phones in our
Yeah,
hands.
yeah. Right.
Yeah, that's great. I really do want to give you the opportunity to, before we like start to wrap it up. Is there any messaging that you are like really passionate about when it comes to personal finance that like you want other people to hear, kind of something that
Yeah.
really will resonate?
I think the one thing to remember with personal finance and spending, well, I guess
Isn't it kind of the same thing, right?
Yeah. So I guess number one, the things that are always the most important are how much you're earning and how much you're spending, right?
Yep.
And trying to create that delta or that gap between the two. If you're making 75 grand and you're spending 75 grand, you're just never going to get ahead, right? So you got to either figure out a way to make more money or figure out a way to reduce your expenses. Maybe you get a raise, you're up to 85K and you cut your expenses but down to 65K.
Right.
You've just created 20 grand a year.
Yes.
Can you imagine
Yes.
having, somebody setting down $20,000 on your pillow every year, right?
Yeah.
Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
But I mean, you can make that $20,000 on your pillow happen, right? With some intentional decisions about trying to create more income and reduce your spending by, for example. So that's one thing. And then I think the second thing is you got to remember that personal finance, a lot of it is about what you value, right? So of course, I would love to live in a fancy house, drive a fancy car, eat at fancy restaurants all the time, go on lavish vacations, have the best clothes, and also save for my retirement, right?
Right.
Of course, that stuff all sounds great, doesn't it? Right? But you gotta you gotta prioritize, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, I prioritized saving, investing for the future, and I prioritized experiences, right? People always think I had a terrible life in my 20s. Oh, you must have just sat in your apartment all
Sat
day.
home and ate your
Eat rice and
groceries.
beans. Yeah. But no, like I always had roommates. I drove a used 2009 Honda CRV all throughout my 20s. And because I always had a roommate, because I drove a used car and I would shop at Aldi and try to, pack my lunch to work.
Yeah.
I was probably saving $1,500 a month just from those 4 decisions. I mean, just getting a roommate could potentially save you $700 a month.
Oh, yeah.
That's $8,400 a year. And that's post-tax money. That's like pre-tax money. That's like 11 grand. Imagine getting an 11 grand raise just because you have to get a roommate. And
You got me thinking about a roommate right now. I'm
maybe,
like-
and yeah, you can get a roommate as your friend, right? That's an $11,000 raise potentially, right? But so people think I lived a terrible life, but no, because I had extra money because I wasn't I didn't need that other stuff. I had all this extra money to go out with my friends every single Friday and Saturday.
Yeah, you weren't deprived. You didn't feel deprived.
Yeah, I did everything I wanted to because I decided what I didn't value and I chose not to spend money on those things. And the experiences, I could go out every weekend. I could go have trips to see my friends. I'd fly Frontier and stuff everything in backpack to save money.
Yep.
But I took trips to see friends, right? So I think it's all about prioritizing. You can't have, what do they say? You can have anything, but you can't have everything.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important when trying to navigate how to spend your money.
For sure.
So that was a long answer, but
No,
I love
that's good. Yeah.
spreading these
Yeah,
messages. So.
that's good. It is honestly, like, I feel inspired talking to you.
Good.
I'm
Good.
like, all right,
Great.
It really does probably just taking someone, like sitting down and being like, okay, here it is. Here are like the numbers that don't lie, month to month, whatever it is. But I think like that for some people is hard too, like just to sit down and do that. But it's like we said, you just do it. Just do it.
So the funny thing about that is as a single guy, it was super easy for me to keep my expenses low. But now I have two kids, a third on the way.
Oh,
yeah.
congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And like I said, my wife is a stay-at-home mom, and it's super hard to control our expenses.
Right.
When it's just you, you have a lot more control. When you have other people, it's super hard to control our expenses now.
Yeah.
And it's extremely challenging. And I'm even learning stuff about, budgeting as a family now. But when it's just you, it's a lot easier. But so I feel the pain when and it's difficult for me and my wife to sit down and we got to look at our spending. It's, not the most fun thing in the world. So I get it. But
But it's so worth it.
It is.
Like you are literally giving yourself freedom and to live the life that you want to live and to like follow your passion, which is so cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, Drew. So every episode we end with the question of what does being fit mean to you? So I ask you now, what does being fit mean to you?
I'm excited to answer this question. Good. So we've talked a lot about money, but my whole life philosophy actually revolves around time. Right. So time is the most, and we talked about that a little bit too, but time is the most important thing we have in our lives. It's the only thing that we can't, they say it's our only finite, what's the word I'm looking for?
Resource?
Yeah, finite resource.
Yeah.
It's the only thing we can't create more of or buy more of, right? So really everything I do is around having control over my time. And the two things that allow you to have control over your time are money and your health.
Yeah.
So for me, being fit means being financially fit and having control over your finances and having the money to be able to have some control over your time. And that goes back to FIRE, right? And financial independence. And then the second thing, which you could argue is even more important than money, is health, right?
Yeah.
If I retire at 45 or 50, but you're in poor health, or maybe you don't even make it to 50, right?
You can't enjoy it. Yeah.
So really, you could argue health is more important. And that's one thing I've been really trying to focus on is health, especially with the family and the kids. You want to, see your kids as long as you can.
They want to move around. Yeah.
And it's funny also how health has evolved. When I was 25, you want to have the 6-pack at the pool. That's your definition of health.
Yep.
But now it's all about longevity, right?
All about longevity.
Right. And just being healthy and just mobile. And, right. And then, So for me, being fit is being financially fit and fit health-wise from a longevity purpose, all in the name of having control over our time as the end game. Yeah.
I love that.
Awesome.
That's amazing. Where can people follow you? And I know you have tools, you have resources. Your content is really entertaining. I love it. So where can people find you?
So it's at Dollars with Drew. I'm primarily on TikTok and Instagram.
Yep.
I'm on Facebook and YouTube Shorts as well, but primarily TikTok and Instagram is where I put posts mostly.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. This has been so lovely.
Yes.
I've got some ideas. I've got some like motivation, inspiration from you.
Awesome.
I'm going to take control.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. I love having these conversations, and especially with all the similarities we have with, how we view things. This is a really fun conversation.
Agree.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening. Make sure you're following me on Instagram at Chrissy Gurley and at What the Fit Podcast. Full video episodes will be available on Spotify and YouTube, so follow and subscribe. If you're loving What the Fit, please help spread the word. Send it to a friend, share it to your story, and if you're looking for even more exclusive content, become a Patreon member. You can find it at patreon.com/whatthefitpodcast.